Yeah.
Here's a good question. How likely is it that the Packers will trade the first round pick and move back? Now, as we've gone on in this process, and we've gone on through the draft's coming up close. We got about 2 weeks till the draft. The more I look at TJ Watt, because TJ Watt seems to be the consensus player at this point for the Packers at 29. The more I think they could probably get him in the second round. So I would not be shocked, especially if there are those quarterbacks still on the board when the Packers are picking the Deshaun Kaisers,
Yeah.
the Patrick Mahomes. I don't know if Mitchell Trubisky will still be there, but Deshaun Watson might still be there. I think if those quarterbacks are still there, you could probably get one of those teams and from like in the second round from like pick 1 to pick 6, 7, the Jets maybe. You could swap picks with the Jets, get their seventh round, they're the sixth pick in the second round, plus maybe a couple other picks, maybe a player. I think it's very likely that the Packers could trade back into the second round and still get their guy and pick up some other compensation as well. What do you think?
I think it's extremely likely. We've seen Ted Thompson do this before, and he loves to stockpile picks. They did it the year they drafted Jordy Nelson. He was effectively their first round draft pick that year.
Not a bad first round draft pick either.
That's the thing is whenever you're picking at the bottom of the first round, as the Packers do, and they have for a long time now, which is a good sign. I mean, you pick at the bottom, it means you're winning. But when you get that deep, especially once you get into the 28, 29, all the way to the end at 32 right there, you're essentially picking from the top of the second round for the most part, unless you've got guys that plummet the way that, for whatever reason, Aaron Rodgers did that year.
It was by the grace of God. It was the Packers gods looking.
It really was.
It was Vince Lombardi looking down and handing the Packers a life raft.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, hey, you guys are going to need this. Just trust me.
Yeah.
And, and that's the thing is that type of drafting is best available player. That's what Ted Thompson does. Aaron Rodgers fell. He was the top player on Ted Thompson's board. And there you have it. And when you draft best available player, you hope that you end up with a player that you need. But
you also don't want to reach.
If a player falls to you, you don't want to reach. So if you got a guy sitting there and he's the best player on your board, whether you absolutely need that position or not, you take that guy, because if you pass on him, somebody else gets him.
Yeah, I'd rather
think, man, do I want to play against him? Everybody else decided, you know what, we can play against Aaron Rodgers. It's all good. We'll let somebody else have him. Now they all regret it.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly.
But to speak to the question,
I wouldn't want to pass up on a great player just to fill a need with a good player. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's what bad GMs do. That's what the Jaguars do.
Yeah.
And, to go back to the question, I know I got off of it, but I think it's extremely likely you're picking from the bottom or from the top of the second round for the most part when you pick that late in the first, and it's not out of character for Ted Thompson at all. And I think they could trade back to a team like the Jets and end up with an extra second round pick and maybe another 5th, 6th, or 7th round pick. Possibly even 4th. People can trade their compensatory picks this year. So that's another thing to look at, another little bit of strategy added into the draft trade process.
Yeah, and we already talked about how much Ted Thompson loves his 4th round draft picks, so
oh God,
how good he is with those. So I'd take a couple of those in this year's draft. I got a hypothetical though. What if hypothetically would you?
Okay.
If the Chicago Bears GM calls you up and your Ted Thompson says, hey, we want to trade. We want your 29th pick. You can have the 2nd pick in the 2nd round and some other picks, whatever. Would the Packers trade with the Bears? Because let's say the Bears trade up, pick up a quarterback, and that quarterback turns out to be fantastic, and then you got to deal with that quarterback for the next 10 years or whatever. From the Packers standpoint, would you do that?
I really don't know, because I think a lot of it comes down to what they're offering. Because if you're not going to pick a quarterback and we know the Packers aren't going to pick a quarterback right now. I think it's too soon to draft a quarterback that high.
Mm-hmm.
Because Aaron Rodgers is not at the point in his career that Brett Favre was when they drafted Rodgers. He's not that late in his career yet. But
No, but I'm not saying the Packers
if
should
the
draft
Bears
a
are
quarterback.
offering,
I'm saying the Bears would
no,
trade up to
all
get
I'm
a
saying is,
quarterback.
you know, as the Packers, you're not going to draft a quarterback, so you're not losing per se the guy on your board.
Yeah.
If the Bears offer you their second round pick, and maybe their second round pick next year, and a fourth round pick this year for a package like that, I still think you kind of have to take it, and you have to believe in your own skill as a GM that you're going to be able to build a team to combat whatever they do.
I don't know. I don't think I would. I think I would be that petty with
Whatever. I'm sure a lot of them are.
In division rivals, especially the Bears, our biggest rival. I don't want them to get their franchise quarterback because I don't know if it's possible that they could ever find a franchise quarterback. They've been in the league for 80 years and they haven't found one yet. Maybe Sid Luckman or
you know what, and